Yeah, sure. I think
They were all taken.
just, yeah, we're good. Everything's fine.
Hag Sameach, everybody. Hag Sameach. Shalom, shalom. Welcome. If you could take your seats, please, we can get started this evening. This is what we say, Chag Sameach, which means happy festival or happy feast day. And we say on this day, since it's Shavuot, you would say Chag Shavuot Sameach. So Chag Sameach, Chag Shavuot Sameach to all of you. We're going to go ahead with our Shavuot service. This service will be a mixture of some liturgy and some traditions and some teaching and this kind of thing, and some worship, of course. We enjoy the worship. Everything will be on your screens. One thing to note is in the text when it says, "You shall, no man is to appear before Adonai empty-handed." And so what we provide, since this is a holy convocation, we provide a tzedakah box in the back. You can make your donation to Adonai in the tzedakah box, or if you'd like to support this ministry, you're welcome to do that. We also allow you to give online. You can give going to our website, and there'll be instructions there to give if you like. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and get started. If you would all please stand, and I'll call for the shofarot. Go ahead, gentlemen. Very good. On your screens, you will see the Isaiah 58 reading that we read on this being a Shabbat. So if we could go ahead to the Shabbat screen. And it says, "If you turn back your foot from Shabbat, from doing your pleasure on my holy day, and call Shabbat a delight, the holy day of Adonai honorable, if you honor it by not going your own ways and seeking your own pleasure, nor speaking your usual speech, then you will delight yourself in Adonai. And I will let you ride over the heights of the earth. I will feed you from the heritage of your father Jacob, for the mouth of Adonai has spoken." Amen. We're going to go ahead and do some praise and worship now. You're welcome to stand, and let's do some worship. is good to praise the Lord and make music by your name, O God Most High, to proclaim your love and faithfulness all the day and through the night. La 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 la. You make me glad by your deeds, O Lord, so I sing for joy at all your hands have made. How great are your works, O Lord, Elohim Baruch Hashem. La 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 trees of Lebanon, planted in the house of Adonai, there to live forevermore. La la la, la 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 It's good to praise the Lord and make music to your name, O God Most High, to proclaim your love and faithfulness all the day and through the night. La la la, la 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 It is a celebration, so celebrations are encouraged. To the house of the God of Jacob, and to the house of the God of Jacob. We face east, which is the closest path to Jerusalem. If we were farther to the west, we would face to the west. But as it is, the closest path to Jerusalem is the east. And so when we say the Baruch Hu and the Shema, that's what we do. We stand and we face the east. So if I could have you all please stand and we'll face east. And if I could have the Baruch Hu, please. Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorak. Baruch Adonai Hamvorak Leolam Vaed. Bless the Lord, source of all blessings. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Malkutov, Leolam Vaed. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Praise be his name, whose glorious kingdom is forever and ever. And you shall love Hashem your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your resources. And these matters that I command you today shall be upon your heart. You shall teach them thoroughly to your children, and you shall speak of them when you sit in your home, while you walk on the way, when you retire, and when you arise. Bind them as a sign upon your arm, and let them be ornaments between your eyes, and write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates. We're going to say the Shehechianu. The Shehechianu is a blessing that we say. We say this multiple times a year. We say this because it's a statement of gratitude and binding ourselves to the sovereignty of Adonai, who has brought us to this place or brought us to this season. There are many road marks, there are many marks along the journey of life. And every time you reach one of these marks, you can say the Shehechianu blessing because Adonai has brought you here. His love has brought you this far. And it's a way of looking back and thanking him and looking ahead to the future in faith that he's going to continue to carry you. So if I could have the Shehechianu, please. And we say this together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kyamanu v'hegianu lazman hazeh. Blessed are you, Adonai God, King of the universe, who has kept us alive, sustained us, and enabled us to reach this season. The Moed Shavuot, which is a reminder of why we're here and what it is that we are doing here. And so it should be on your screen. Then you are to count from the morrow after the Shabbat, from the day that you brought the omer of the wave offering, 7 complete Shabbatot. Until the morrow after the 7th Shabbat, you are to count 50 days, and then present a new grain offering to Adonai. You are to bring out of your houses 2 loaves of bread for a wave offering, made of 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour. They are to be baked with chametz as first fruits to Adonai. And this comes from Vayikra, Leviticus chapter 23. We're going to do the Yakdamut. The Yakdamut is a declaration prayer. This dates back, I believe, to the Middle Ages, to the medieval times. And it's a traditional declaration that we, even today, are standing at Sinai. We, even today, are entering into the same covenant that they entered into in the plain, in the valley below Mount Horeb. And so, if we could have that on your screen, Yakdamut together. We stand at Sinai to hear the divine command, each of us according to our ability to understand it. We take upon ourselves the obligation to observe the will of God. All the people answered as one, saying, all that Adonai has spoken, we will do. We stand at Sinai to make a covenant with Adonai. We take upon ourselves the obligations of being God's people. Now then, if you will obey me faithfully and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all the peoples. Together we stand at Sinai, newly liberated, delivered from slavery, delivered from bondage to human masters, and bondage to falsehood and transgression. We become instead the servants of the Holy One. I am Adonai, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, the house of bondage. We stand at Sinai to accept the yoke of God's sovereignty upon ourselves. We abjure the worship of all false gods. You shall have no other gods besides me. We stand at Sinai to become a people mutually responsible for one another, pledged to continue and renew the traditions of our ancestors. It is not with our ancestors that Adonai made this covenant, but with us, the living, every one of us who is here today. We stand at Sinai to become a people of covenant, entering into the betrothal that has been purchased on our behalf, willingly accepting the bridegroom price and payment, and becoming echad with him by his mercy and grace. We're going to read the Ten Commandments now. The Shavuot is traditionally the time when the Torah was given to the people of Israel. And so the Ten Commandments is something that we read on this day. Many people will read the entire Torah on these days, on this holiday, but we have some excerpts here. So we're just going to read the Ten Commandments, or the 10 sayings, as you would say it in Hebrew. Begins with this, Shemot. Then God spoke all these words, saying, I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. Do not make for yourself a graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or on the earth below, or in the water under the earth. You shall bow down to them. Do not. Jealous God. Upon the children to the third and fourth generations of those who, but displaying kindness to thousands of generations of those who love me and keep my mitzvot. Remember Yom Shabbat to keep it holy. You are to work 6 days and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Shabbat to Adonai your God. In it you shall not do any work, not you, nor your son, your daughter, your male servant, your female servant, your cattle, nor the outsider that is within your gates. For in 6 days Adonai made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Thus Adonai blessed Yom Shabbat and made it holy. Honor your father and your mother, so that your days may be long upon the land which Adonai your God is giving you. Do not murder. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness against your neighbor. Do not covet your neighbor's house, your neighbor's wife, his manservant, his maidservant, his ox, his donkey, or anything that is your neighbor's. You may be seated. We would, traditionally in our community, we would read an excerpt from Jeremiah chapter 31. But I was just struck that we wanted to read the entirety. So I'm going to go ahead and read this, and you can follow along on your screens. Here's what Adonai says. The people escaping the sword found favor in the desert. I have brought Israel to its rest. From a distance Adonai appeared to me, saying, I love you with an everlasting love. This is why in my grace I draw you to me. Once again I will build you. You will be rebuilt, Virgin of Israel. Once again, equipped with your tambourines, you will go out and dance with the merrymakers. Once again, you will plant vineyards on the hills of Shomron, and those doing the planting will have use of its fruit. For a day will come when the watchmen on Mount Ephraim will call, 'Come, let's go up to Zion, to Adonai our God.' For here is what Adonai says, 'Sing with joy for Yaakov, shout for the chief of the nations, proclaim your praise and say, Adonai, you have saved your people, the remnant of Israel. Look, I am bringing them from the land in the north, gathering them from the far ends of the earth. Among them are blind and lame, women with children, women in labor, all together, a vast throng returning here. They will come weeping and praying as I bring them back. I will lead them by streams of water on smooth paths so they don't stumble. For I am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn son. Nations, hear the word of Adonai. Proclaim it in the coastlands far away. Say, he who scattered Israel is gathering him, guarding him like a shepherd his flock. For Adonai has ransomed Yaakov, redeemed him from hands too strong for him. They will come and sing on the heights of Zion, streaming to the goodness of Adonai, to the grain, the wine, the olive oil, the young of the flock and the herd. They themselves will be like a well-watered garden, never to languish again. Then the virgin will dance for joy, young men and old men together, for I will turn their mourning into joy, comfort and gladden them after their sorrow. I will give the Kohanim their fill of rich food, and my people will be satisfied with my bounty, says Adonai. This is what Adonai says, a voice is heard in Ramah, lamenting and bitter weeping. It is Rachel weeping for her children, refusing to be comforted for her children because they are no longer alive. This is what Adonai says, stop your weeping and dry your eyes, for your work will be rewarded, says Adonai. They will return from the enemy's land, so there is a hope for your future, says Adonai. Your children will return to their own territory. I hear Ephraim bemoaning himself. You disciplined me, and I took your discipline like a young ox not used to a yoke. Let me return, and I will return, for you, Adonai, my God. Yes, I turned away, but later I repented when I had been made to understand. I struck my thigh in shame and remorse, bearing the weight of the disgrace acquired when I was young. Isn't Ephraim my very dear son, a child who delights me so? I speak about him all the time. I can't help but recall him to mind. In sum, I deeply yearn for him, and I will show favor, says Adonai. Set up road signs, erect guideposts, pay attention to the highway on the path which you have traveled. Come back, virgin Israel, come back to these cities of yours. How long will you hesitate, you unruly daughter? For Adonai has created something new on earth, a woman with the strength of a man. Here's what Adonai, the God of Israel, says. This expression will be used again in the land of Yehuda and its cities. After I have returned their exiles, may Adonai bless you, home of justice, holy mountain. In it will live together Yehuda and all its cities, the farmer and those who lead the flocks. For I have satisfied the weary and filled the needs of all in distress. At this point I woke up and looked around, says the prophet, but I had enjoyed my sleep. I like that line because we've been talking about sleep lately. Here the days are coming, says Adonai, when I will sow the house of Israel and the house of Yehuda with the seed of humans and the seed of animals. At that time, just as I used to watch over them with the intent to uproot, break down, overthrow, destroy, and do harm, so then I will watch over them to build and plant, says Adonai. When those days come, they will no longer say, the fathers have eaten sour grapes and the children's teeth are set on edge. Rather, each will die for his own sin. Everyone who eats sour grapes, his own teeth will be set on edge. Let me just explain that briefly. It was a cliche. It was like a statement that you would hear. People would say, the fathers have eaten sour grapes and the children's teeth are set on edge. And it was a way of blaming your ancestors for your problems. It was a way of blaming your ancestors, or even blaming all the way back to Adonai tacitly for your troubles. When you have consequences of sin, well, the fathers have eaten sour grapes and the children's teeth are set on edge. And Adonai says, rather, you will no longer say this. Rather, each will die for his own sin. Here, days are coming, says Adonai, verse 31, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Yehudah. It will not be like the covenant I made with their fathers on the day I took them by the hand and brought them out of the land of Egypt, because they, for their part, violated my covenant, even though I, for my part, was a husband to them, says Adonai. For this is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel after those days, says Adonai. I will put my Torah within them and write it on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. No longer will any of them teach his fellow community member or his brother, know Adonai, for all will know me, from the least of these to the greatest, because I will forgive their wickedness and remember their sins no more. This is what Adonai says, who gives the sun as light for the day, who ordained the laws for the moon and the stars to provide light for the night, who stirs up the sea until its waves roar. Adonai Tzvaot is his name. If these laws leave my presence, says Adonai, then the offspring of Israel will stop being a nation in my presence forever. This is what Adonai says, if the sky above can be measured and the foundations of the earth be fathomed, then I will reject all the offspring of Israel for all that they have done. And even today, with all of our modern technology, with our satellites and our Explorer spacecraft and our telescopes in orbit, we still cannot measure the universe. Look, the days are coming, says Adonai, when the city will be rebuilt for Adonai from the tower of Hananel to the corner gate. The measuring line will be stretched straight to Gadav Hill and turned to Goah, the whole valley of corpses and ashes, including all the fields as far as Vadi Kedron, and on to the corner of the horse gate to the east, will be separated out for Adonai, and it will never be uprooted or destroyed again. Amen. If we could have the children come forward, we'll go ahead and bless the children now. I thought we had more children. They're trickling in, right? All right. We bless these, our children, under the Talit representative of the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit. Please stretch out your hands as we say a blessing. Evarecha Adonai yerishmarecha, ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha, yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'asem lecha, shalom, shalom. The Lord bless you. The Lord keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace, rest, shalom. The Lord make you and all the boys in the world like Ephraim and Manasseh. The Lord make you and all the girls in the world like Sarah, Rivkah, Rachel, and Leah. The Lord lay down a path of blessing before you. May he make straight paths before you. May those paths lead into his eternal life, into his wisdom and his love. May the Lord be the sun on your right hand and the shade on your left. May the Lord guard your going out and your coming in, both now and forevermore. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen, amen, and amen. You can go to Shabbat school now. Thank you, gentlemen. So the two major themes that you see on the Shavuot holiday, of course, is the giving of the law, which was this encounter with Adonai and his revelation in the waste of Sinai, where he occupied the mountain, where he possessed the mountain with his fire and his cloud, and came down, and we entered into covenant with Adonai at that time. The other theme that we see is the theme of Ruth that is woven in and through our traditions on the Shavuot holiday. And there's a lot of discussion as to why that is, but in very simple terms, Ruth is an example of the law of God providing for both the Jew and the Gentile in harmony, in blessing and salvation, and in the future Davidic salvation, the Mashiach ben David, who is Yeshua. And I talked about this, I think I talked about it in our discussion last week, this idea that Adonai sees the timeline from the front and the back. We think in terms of yesterday and tomorrow. Adonai thinks of yesterday and tomorrow and then tomorrow and yesterday, such that in order to get David, you've got to introduce Ruth. Ruth was one of the things that was necessary in order to bring about David. So in order to get the Mashiach ben David from David, you had to resolve the situation where Naomi and her husband had left Bethlehem. And it's this powerful moment wherein these Jews had abandoned the gift of Bethlehem and gone to the secular world, the land of Moab. And there they found only death and destruction. And it was only when they came back to Bethlehem and entered into this Jew and Gentile that Naomi was able to receive back what she had lost. What did Naomi lose? She lost both of her sons. What did she receive back? She received back the child of Boaz and Ruth. And so that's one of the reasons why Ruth is so profound on this holiday. The law isn't just a law of covenant and instructions. The law is Adonai's provision out of his character and love, the very being and essence of who he is that is provided for us. We're going to read some excerpts from Ruth. I think you have this on your screen, is that right? Do not plead with me to abandon you, from chapter 1, to turn back from following you, for where you go I will go, says Ruth, and where you stay I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God. Where you die I will die, and there I will be buried. May Adonai deal with me and worse, if anything but death comes between me and you. And when Naomi, saw that Ruth was determined to go with her, she no longer spoke to Ruth about it. So the two of them went on until they arrived in Bethlehem. As soon as they arrived in Bethlehem, the whole city was excited because of them, and the women asked, "Is this Naomi?" "Do not call me Naomi," she said. "Call me Mara, since Shaddai, that is the Almighty One, has made my life bitter. I went away full, but Adonai has brought me back empty. Why should you call me Naomi, since Adonai has testified against me, and Shaddai has brought calamity on me?" So Naomi and her daughter-in-law Ruth the Moabitess returned from the region of Moab. They arrived in Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. And what is the barley harvest? The beginning of the barley harvest is around the time of Passover. Boaz said to Ruth, so Ruth goes out to glean in the fields, and Boaz says to Ruth, "Listen to me, my daughter. Do not glean in another field or even pass on from here, but stay close to my female workers. Keep your eyes on the field where they are harvesting. Follow after them. I strongly ordered the young men not to touch you. When you are thirsty, you can go to the jars and drink from the water the young men have drawn." She fell on her face, bowing to the ground, and said to him, "Why have I found favor in your eyes, that you have noticed me, even though I am a foreigner?" Boaz replied and said to her, "All that you have done for your mother-in-law since your husband's death has been fully reported to me. How you left your father and mother in the land of your birth, and came to a people you did not know before. May Adonai repay you for what you have done, and may you be fully rewarded by Adonai, God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." She said, "May I continue to find favor in your eyes, my Lord, for you have comforted me and spoken kindly to your maidservant, even though I am not one of your maidservants." At the mealtime, Boaz said to her, "Come over here and eat some bread and dip your piece into the vinegar." She sat beside the harvesters, and he held out to her roasted grain. She ate until she was full, and some was still left. When she got up to glean, Boaz gave orders to his workers, saying, "Let her glean even among the sheaves. Do not humiliate her. Also, be sure to pull out some grain for her from the sheaves and leave them for her to pick up, and do not rebuke her." This scene of her eating and there's some left over, and then the idea of picking up afterwards, what does that remind us when Yeshua fed the 4,000 and 5,000? So she gleaned in the field until evening, and she threshed what she had gathered, and there was about an ephah of barley. Continuing from Ruth, excerpts from Ruth chapter 3. So she went down to the threshing floor, doing everything that her mother-in-law had said. After Boaz had ate, drank, and was in a good mood, he went to lie down at the far side of the grain pile. So she came to the grain pile quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. Now in the middle of the night the man was startled and pulled back, and to his surprise a woman was lying at his feet. "Who are you?" he asked. It's a good thing to ask a woman who's lying at your feet in the middle of the night. "Who are you?" "I am Ruth, your handmaid," she answered. "Spread the corner of your garment over your handmaid, for you are a goel." A goel is the Hebrew word for redeemer. "May you be blessed by Adonai, my daughter. You have made the latter act of loyalty greater than the first, by not running after the young men, whether rich or poor." The sages teach that Boaz was very, very old. So she lay at his feet until morning, but got up before one person could be distinguished from another, while it was still dark. And he said, "Do not let it be known that the woman came to the threshing floor." Then he said, "Bring the cloak you are wearing and hold it out." She held it out, and he poured 6 measures of barley into it and put it on her. Then he returned to town. When Ruth came back to her mother-in-law, Naomi asked, "How did it go, my daughter?" Ruth told her all that the man had done for her. She said, "He gave me 6 measures of barley, for he said, 'You shouldn't go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed.'" "Wait, my daughter," Naomi said, "until you find out how the matter turns out. He will not rest until he has settled the matter today." And then we have the negotiation between Boaz and the other possible redeemer. He says, I have acquired, Moab says, I have acquired Ruth the Moabitess, the widow of Mahlon, to be my wife in order to raise up the name of the deceased over his inheritance, so that the name of the deceased will not be cut off from his brothers or from the gate of this town. You are witnesses today. All the people at the gate and the elders said, we are witnesses. May Adonai make the woman who has come into your house like Rachel and like Leah, who both built up the house of Israel. May you prosper in Ephrath and be renowned in Bethlehem. May your house be like the house of Perez, who Tamar bore to Judah, through the seed that Adonai will give you by this young woman. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. When he went to her, Adonai enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. Then the woman said to Naomi, Blessed be Adonai, who has not left you without a goel today. Notice that the goel is for Naomi, the Hebrew widow. May his name be famous throughout Israel. Moreover, he will be to you a renewer of life and a sustainer of your old age, for your daughter-in-law who loves you and is better to you than 7 sons has given birth to him. Naomi took the child, held it to her bosom, and took care of him. The neighboring women gave him a name, saying, A son has been born to Naomi. They called him Obed. He was the father of Jesse, the father of David. And these are the generations of Perez. Perez fathered Hezron. Hezron fathered Ram. Ram fathered Amminadab. Amminadab fathered Nahshon. Nahshon fathered Salmon. Salmon fathered Boaz. Boaz fathered Obed. Obed fathered Jesse. And Jesse fathered David. Okay. So I have something I want to share with you folks tonight. And I see we've got some guests in the room, so I know that some of you follow our messages online and our services online, so this may be a review for some of you. This may be brand new material for some of you. I understand that. In recent weeks, we've been talking about this sort of paradigm of the vertical and the horizontal, the vertical being our connection to Adonai, our relationship to Adonai, horizontal being our connection and relationship, the aspect or alignment of our relationship one to another. And so we have this sort of vertical dynamic in our lives, aspect in our lives, this horizontal dynamic in our lives, and this is how we kind of move and function with each other. And then the idea is that you see yourself as the intersection. And in this moment, I am ministering and I am in relationship. I am in alignment with Adonai. I am also in alignment with you. I'm the pivot point. And actually, you come to me in your encounter with Adonai, not just by virtue of the fact that I'm the preacher for the evening, but when I come to you, if I come to you to speak with you and you bless me, you are in that pivot point, that intersection point between horizontal and vertical. The paradigm of this is exampled in the text by Melchizedek. Melchizedek was the priest, and Melchizedek blessed Adonai and blessed Abraham. Melchizedek served as a priest in that intersection. So that's kind of a paradigm that I want you to have in the back of your mind. In this way, this is how we are priests to Adonai and priests to each other. There is a holiness to our relationship, our standing with Adonai. There is a holiness to each other. What does it mean to be holy? It means to be separate or purposeful. In this case, what is your purpose? Your purpose is to be a blessing. And that being a blessing to people horizontally, being a blessing to Adonai, is what is your job description, if you will. It is your functionality as a priest. It is what makes you a priest. You're not a priest by virtue just of your last name being a Cohen in the Hebrew tradition, or by virtue of you having received Yeshua and having been named a priest. You are a priest more than that. You're a priest in your position, your role and function, both in the kingdom of God and in the realm of the earth. This is how we are priests to Adonai and priests to each other. Here is the example of it on the text. You can pull up the screen, Rafa, please. Bereshit, Genesis chapter 14 says this: Melchizedek, king of Shalem, brought out bread and wine. He was a Cohen, that is a Hebrew word for priest, of El Elyon, God Most High. Next frame. So he blessed with these words: Blessed be Avram by Elyon, maker of heaven and earth. This is before Avram or Abram's name was changed to Abraham. And blessed be El Elyon, who handed your enemies over to you. And it says Avram gave him a tenth of everything. So on this day of Shavuot, as we remember and memorialize the giving of the Torah, we have these 10 commandments as representative of the Torah. And we're going to analyze the 10 commandments, and guess what? We're going to analyze the 10 commandments in the same paradigm as we've done here with the horizontal and the vertical. All right, here we go. From Devarim, chapter 4, verse 11, says this. You approached and stood at the foot of the mountain. The mountain blazed with fire to the heart of heaven, with darkness, clouds, and thick mist. Next frame. Then Adonai spoke to you out of the fire. You heard the sound of the words, but saw no shape. There was only a voice. This is the moment of revelation when Adonai is speaking to humanity on a corporate scale. All of us have heard the unmistakable word of Adonai in our heart and in our being, but this is an audible voice that all heard at the same time. He proclaimed his covenant to you, which he ordered you to obey, the 10 words, 10 commandments or 10 sayings. He wrote them on 2 stone tablets. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's walk through the 10 commandments, the 10 sayings, and let's just review them. I know we spoke of them earlier in our liturgy, but let's just do it again here. If you would, the 10 sayings. Then Adonai said all these words. Aleph, 1. I am Adonai, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the abode of slavery. That's the first one. The second one, Bet, you are to have no other gods before me. You are not to make for yourselves a carved image or any kind of representation of anything in heaven above or on the earth beneath or in the water below the shoreline. You are not to bow down to them or serve them, for I, Adonai, your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sins of the parents to the 3rd and 4th generation, those who hate me, but displaying grace to the 1000th generation of those who love me and obey my mitzvot. This statement here, for I, Adonai, your God, am a jealous God, and then going on, punishing the children for the sins of the parents to the 3rd and 4th generation, in my mind, that's like a name. It's a long statement, but it's actually his name. It's who he is, it's his identity, it's how he is known. Let's go to the third one. You are not to use lightly the name of Adonai your God, because Adonai will not leave unpunished someone who uses his name lightly. The next one, remember the day Shabbat is set apart for God. You have 6 days to labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Shabbat for Adonai your God. In it you are not on it you are not to do any kind of work, not you, your son, your daughter, not your male or female slave, not your livestock, not the foreigner staying with you, inside the gates to your property. For in 6 days Adonai made heaven and earth, the sea, and everything in them. But on the 7th day he rested. This is why Adonai blessed the Shabbat and separated it for himself. And then the next one, honor your father and mother so that you may live long in the land which Adonai your God is giving you. Now we pick up some speed. We move along a little quicker. Do not murder. Fairly straightforward. Do not commit adultery and do not steal. Do not give false evidence against your neighbor. In other words, don't bear false witness or testimony. Do not speak lies. And finally, we finish up with do not covet your neighbor's house. Do not covet your neighbor's wife, his male or female slave, his ox, his donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. All right, so these are on 2 tablets. And much discussion is made of the 2 tablets, and it's analyzed and parsed in a number of different ways. But for our sake, we're going to separate the 2 tablets, and because we're talking horizontal and vertical, let's analyze the 2 tablets horizontally and vertically. First of all, let's pull out the first 5 commandments. I am Adonai your God. That's a summary. Second commandment, you are to have no other gods or representation of any other gods that you would bow down and serve and worship. That'd be the second commandment. Third commandment, go ahead and shout them out if you remember. Revere the name of Adonai. Do not take lightly the name of Adonai. Fourth commandment, Shabbat, remembering the Shabbat. Very good. And the 5th commandment, honor your father and mother. Now, of those 5 commandments, how would you characterize them, horizontal or vertical? Vertical. Yeah. I am Adonai your God. Certainly vertical. You are to have no other gods. Certainly vertical. Revere the name of Adonai. Remember the Shabbat. Okay, maybe. Yes, I could see that as being vertical. Honor your father and mother. That's where we start to wonder, is that vertical or is that horizontal? Let's put that one off to the side. Continuing on. The second tablet, presuming, of course, we don't know what the geometry of the tablets were, But let's presume that the first 5 are on one tablet, the second 5 are on the other tablet. And let's continue with this. The sixth commandment, do not murder. Seventh commandment, do not commit adultery. Eighth, do not steal. Ninth, do not give false witness, lying. And 10th, do not covet. Okay. Of those, vertical or horizontal? Horizontal, because they're all interacting with other people. Don't murder, don't commit adultery, so on and so forth. All right, so what we're seeing is we're seeing some delineation that's starting to make sense. We're making some structure out of the document, okay? And here's the thing of it. Whenever you're communicating something, it's not just words. The words have structure, right? The Constitution of the United States has structure. Poetry has structure. A love letter has structure. And the more sophisticated and the more complex the message, the more you rely on the structure and not just a bunch of words. I mean, if nothing else, what is very, very important in your writing? Your punctuation, right? Punctuation makes all the difference in the world. You can make things mean a lot of different things when you start moving periods and commas around in a sentence. Okay. So what is the structure of the Ten Commandments? The structure of the Ten Commandments appears to have something to do with these two tablets. And if we analyze the structure from this perspective, I'm not saying this is the only way to analyze it, but if we analyze it from this perspective of horizontal versus vertical, this is where we run into. Now, going back to me in this paradigm, where I'm saying that I am the intersection. I am the pivot point between the vertical and horizontal. So let's look at the Ten Commandments and let's see where I could be the pivot point or the intersection points between vertical and horizontal. All right. So what was the first vertical commandment? I am Adonai. What is the first horizontal commandment in our paradigm? Do not murder. Yep, the sixth commandment. Okay, I am Adonai, and do not murder. Now, if I'm looking at myself and I'm saying, okay, how do I relate these two commandments to each other? How do I see myself as the intersection point, the pivot point between these two commandments? What does it mean to murder? Go ahead and shout out some ideas. What does it mean to murder? Kill, take somebody's life? Determine who lives or who dies. Decide whether that person has value. I've decided that you don't have value and I'm going to end your life. Now, how does that stack up in the phrase, I am Adonai? The phrase, I am Adonai, means I am the one who decides. I am the God. I am the head. I determine life. And here, murder determines life. The ultimate expression of Adonai is the creation of life. The ultimate expression of opposing Adonai's fundamental identity is to take life, to end life. I can create life by allowing it to live. I can destroy life by murder. Therefore, I am God. You see that? All right. Well, that was the first one. Let's do the second one. Do not worship other gods, the second commandment. And the sixth commandment, or the seventh commandment, sorry. Do not commit adultery. All right. So how would we relate those two together? How is there a pivot point, an intersection point between worshiping other gods and committing adultery? Anyone have any thoughts on that? Yeah, Amy? Very good. Cheating on Adonai, cheating on your spouse. Very simple, huh? So what is it in a relationship that is sacred such that adultery ruins or takes away the sacredness of that? What is it that you share? You share a covenant, right? Intimacy, oneness, knowledge. You know your spouse in a way that no one else does. Holiness. You take away their holiness because that person was separated unto you, and by committing adultery, you take away their holiness and you take away your holiness. You are no longer separate unto each other. Worship is to take the love and obedience and identity. Idolatry is to take love and obedience and identity and place it on another. Adultery is actually a human, or in some cases demonic, distortion of worship. It's taking what was reserved and placing it on another object. All right. Continuing on. To honor the name of Adonai. And the corresponding commandment, do not steal. Any thoughts? In what ways would we associate these two commandments together? Honor the name of Adonai, revere the name of Adonai, do not take the name of Adonai in vain, and do not steal. In what ways would we associate those two commandments together? Anyone? Yeah, Michelle.
Misrepresent God.
You're misrepresenting God.
Taking from his glory.
If you act incorrectly, you're stealing his identity.
You're misrepresenting his identity, stealing his identity. Grant, do you have a suggestion, or are you blocking the sun? There are some other seats that do not have you in the line of fire. Yes, Sylvia.
When you show no respect for somebody's property, it's the same thing. You're showing no respect for God. You're treating it as some common thing that you can take or not take.
So here's a simple way to say what you're saying, I think. If I take your boat, I steal your boat, what happens to you? You don't have a boat, but you're still Sylvia. If I take your money or I steal your lawnmower, what happens to you?
I get fined by the city.
Okay. But I don't do anything to you. I don't take anything from you. What would be the ultimate expression? In the modern vernacular, the modern experience, what is the ultimate expression of theft? Identity theft. Somebody gets my wallet and takes my cards and not just empties my bank account, right? Because that's a mess. What if they become me? What if they take my identity and they start sending out text messages to my contacts and emails to my email list? And what if they're pretending to be me, but they just want to stir up some trouble? And they pretend to be me, but they just kind of do it in a diabolical way. And so you get a text from me one day, or you get a note from me one day, and it's like, well, it sounds like his sense of humor, but boy, he's a little crass today. I know he can be flip and dry, but boy, that would be ruin. Identity theft is a terrible thing. When it happens to somebody, it's miserable. We've had a couple people in our congregation go through this. The ultimate expression of theft is to take identity, as Michelle said. If I took your identity, I would take your name. And I would use it for another purpose. And that's what it means to take the name of Adonai. When I steal from you, I am in a way redefining who you are and who I am. To take the name of Adonai lightly is to reappropriate it for your own purpose. Okay, moving on. The fourth commandment, remember and keep the Shabbat, and to corresponding commandment, to lie or bear false witness, false testimony. Okay, any thoughts on how these two would be related within our paradigm, within our discussion? Anyone? Okay, Sonia? Okay. Okay. Any other thoughts on the relationship between Shabbat and lying? So, Genesis 1, what was the first Shabbat? The seventh day. And what was said about the seventh day? Why? Because it was good. It was finished, right? The Shabbat was first and foremost a declaration. The Shabbat is first and foremost a statement. It's good. Creation is good. It's complete. It's finished. You've got this on your screen, Bereshit, Genesis chapter 1, verse 31. Adonai saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. He said it was very good. It was complete. It was finished. What is it that you do when you lie? What is it that we're doing when we lie about somebody? When you tell a falsehood about somebody?
You're creating a false image.
Creating a false image of somebody?
Marring their reputation.
Marring their reputation? So if marring somebody's reputation, if you're good, but I say you're not good. Or if you're finished, and I say you're not finished. Or if you're not good, and I say you are good. We've got a couple interesting moments here in the creation narrative where the day ends, but Adonai does not say, and it was good. And you see the work continues on the next day. Right? Do you remember this? This is really fascinating when you stumble across this. I'll go ahead and read this. This is a little departure, but it's really fun. So, Genesis chapter 1, of course. I'm sure there's a Genesis 1 in here. Okay. Bereshit, chapter 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was unformed and void. Darkness on the face of the earth. The Spirit of God hovered over the surface of the water. Adonai said, let there be light. There was light. God saw the light was good. The God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day. Darkness he called night. He said the light was good. There was evening and morning one day. And then it says, let there be a dome in the middle of the water, divide the water from the waters, divide the waters above from waters below. That's how it was. God called the dome sky. There was evening and morning, second day. What are we missing? There was no good. So day 3, what are we going to work on? God said, let the water under the sky be gathered. Wait a minute, I thought we were just working on the water. Why are we still working on the water? Because it's not good. Good is done. God didn't say it was good. Do you see that? Fascinating. And then God called the dry land earth, gathering together, saw that it was good, and then he brought forth grass and seeds, saw that it was good, and there was evening and morning, a third day. Okay, so what is the Shabbat? The Shabbat is things are good. And the corresponding commandment in the horizontal aspect is this idea that when you say something is not good, or it is good. All right, moving on. The last commandment that we're going to look at, honor your father and mother, vertical and horizontal. And we put this one off to the side at the beginning of the discussion because it would break the paradigm, right? Because it's kind of seems to be obviously horizontal. And if our paradigm is that the one tablet is all vertical and the other tablet's all horizontal, what do we do with this anomaly here? Well, let me suggest to you, or how about this? Does any of you have a suggestion? In what way is honoring your father and mother a vertical commandment rather than a horizontal one? Debbie? God is our Father. Okay. So our fathers and mothers would be reminiscent or reminding us of our fathers and mothers. Michelle?
We are co-creators with God to make children.
Right. So it's where we come from. And in fact, yes, that's the wording for it. They are our creators in the same way our Father in heaven is our creator. Obviously, you would think, perhaps you might think horizontal, but actually I think it's more significantly vertical because it speaks to your origin, where you come from. All right. The corresponding commandment, the 10th commandment, is what? Shall not covet your neighbor's boat or his barbecue or his lawn or his pickup or anything that he has. I love the 10th commandment because it goes into all the details. It's like, really? Did we really have to talk about the donkey and the servants and everything? Why do we do that? Why do we talk about the donkey and the servants and everything with coveting? Covers all the bases, perhaps. Perhaps. When somebody goes to steal something, and you go and you steal something, you've kind of done that. Committing adultery is oftentimes sort of a limited expression of sin. Murder. Very few people go out to murder everybody. But what is the characteristic of coveting? With coveting, you start with the boat, and then you go to the barbecue, and then you go to the jet ski, and then you go to the... See, coveting is like this wildfire that doesn't stop. It keeps going. So you start with coveting. You start with your neighbor's wife, and then it goes on from there. Why does it go on from there? Why are you not content with his wife and your neighbor's wife and his barbecue? What more do you want? Or what is it that you really want? You want to be him. Coveting is about being that person. And in a sense, if I want to be that person, what do I not want to be? Myself. Where did I come from? Where's the origin of I? Father and mother. I am rejecting my father and mother because I want to be that person. And now we see it. So Adonai offers us these expressions. Each of these expressions in the second tablet, the horizontal tablet, if you will, each of these expressions are distortions of the commandments of God. God tells us what to do. In the second tablet, he tells us what not to do. And the do nots are all distortions of an almost diabolical nature of the first tablet. Right? I am the Lord your God. Well, it isn't enough just to reject. It isn't enough to be an atheist. It's committing murder. Right? So each of these expressions, which are authored ultimately in the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, each of these expressions are distortions of the authentic, which is expressed in the first column. It's that we turn and twist the first column into these sort of evil distortions. So Adonai offers us correction and discipline in the don't do's. And it's a very simple thing. Don't commit murder. Don't commit adultery. Don't steal, don't lie. And don't covet. I mean, really, you could name them off in a sentence, right, without hardly taking a breath. What is fascinating to me is Yeshua, the teacher, and he looks out at his audience, and he says, you have heard it said, don't commit murder. And of an audience of any size, what was the percentage of people in that audience who had actually murdered somebody? Probably quite low, right? There's probably not many murderers here, right? So if I begin my lecture with, you've heard it said, don't commit murder, then 99% of you are like, okay, I'm good. I'll wait till he comes up with the next statement. And what does he say next? And you've heard it said, don't commit adultery. Good, got it. I'm good. I can go get coffee. Right? Because it doesn't apply to you. And then Yeshua shows you how it applies to you. Because here's the nature of it. The human expression, the human being, the human tendency is to distort the truths of Adonai into these distortions, into these aberrations. Here's the thing. If you are authentic to what Adonai tells you to do, then you will create a structure by which you can avoid doing the things he tells you not to do. In other words, if I keep Shabbat, I will learn about the completion of Adonai's plan for me and the completion of me, and therefore I won't slander somebody else because they belong to Adonai, and their trajectory, their purpose in life is to bring about Adonai's satisfactory completion in them. And even to take it a step further, for me to slander somebody, to say something false about somebody, when their salvation has been completed in the work of Yeshua, I need to honor what Adonai has accomplished. It's very simple. We're told two things. The Torah can be distilled down to two things, right? What are those two things? To love the Lord your God and to love your neighbor. And we take all the tablets, we take the 10 sayings, the 10 commandments, and we distill them down. To love your God and to love your neighbor. This is the essence of Torah. This is the essence of the 10 commandments. Every one of us has tendencies in the second tablet in resistance to the first tablet. And so what I would say is this, that Adonai has made it for us a way that we can do this, a way that we can successfully bring the Torah from words on a page or words on a scroll into our heart. Remember when it says this is near to you. It is not very far from you. It is very near to you. It is in your mouth and it is in your heart. The words of Torah are with you. And when we approach it in an honest way, we see the wisdom of Adonai and we see the salvation of Adonai woven together in both the structure and the words. And so on this day, when we celebrate his redemption and we celebrate his law and we bind ourselves and remind ourselves of what Adonai has accomplished in this bringing us together on this day, has accomplished in giving us his revelation and his salvation in Yeshua. That truly is the purpose of life and the purpose of blessing that he has for us. We'll continue with our worship. If you would, bring out the kids. The tradition is to wave 2 loaves before Adonai. We use challah here because it's a simple way to do this. And we will bless Adonai with the waving of these 2 loaves. You can stand. Kol aser tzivit anu na'aseh elechem. Tenupa tayim sheni esronim solet tiyena chametz lepana b'karim la'adonai. All that you've commanded us, we will do regarding the 2 loaves of the wave offering. They are the first fruits to Adonai. We wave these together before Adonai. Amen. The blessing of the revelation of Adonai. Do you have the blessing of the Torah on your screen? No? Okay. I'll read it for you. Blessed are you, Adonai Elohim, King of the universe, who has sanctified us in the blood of Yeshua HaMashiach and commanded us to wave the bread of first fruits. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'devrat Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai Elohim, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us to engage in the words of Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai Elohim, King of the universe, who gave the Torah to our forefathers on Mount Horeb in those days at this season, and who gave us Yeshua HaMashiach as the living Torah, who came and dwelt among us, and who sent the Ruach HaKodesh, your Holy Spirit, as a first fruit of the resurrection of Yeshua. We bless you, Adonai, that according to your sovereign will you brought us forth by the word of truth to be a kind of first fruits of all creation. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher baruch banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai Elohim, King of the universe, who has chosen us from all the peoples and given us his Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, who gives the Torah. I'll say the blessing over the wine and the bread in remembrance of Yeshua and acknowledgement of his atonement. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam borei peri hagafen. Amen. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who brings forth the fruit of the vine. Amen. In remembrance of Yeshua, the true bread of heaven. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam hamotzi lechem min ha'aretz. Amen. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. Amen. We're going to continue with worship for a couple songs. You are holy Adonai. Your glory fills the sky. And with our knees upon the ground and our hands to heaven raised, we cry, holy. Holy are you, Lord, we cry, holy. Holy are you, Lord of all the earth. You formed us from the dust, to the earth its frame returns. But while these lungs are filled with breath, we shout glory unto you. We cry, holy are you, Lord, we cry, holy are you, Lord, we cry, holy are you, Lord, we cry, holy are you, Lord of all the earth. Holy are you, Lord. Holy are you, Lord. Holy are you. You speak as the mountains shake, as we fall upon the ground. Your breath consumes us, Lord. Your great fire overwhelms. You are holy, Lord. You are holy, Lord. Holy are you. You are holy, Lord. You are holy, Lord. Holy are you. We cry, holy. increase that trouble me. Many are they that rise up against me. Many are they that say of my soul, there is no hope for him in God. But thou, O Lord, art a shield for me, my glory and the lifter of my head. But thou, O Lord, art a shield for me, the glory and the lifter of my head. I cried unto the Lord with my voice, and he heard me out of his holy hill. I laid me down and I slept. I woke, for the Lord sustains me. But thou, O Lord, art a shield for me, the glory and the lifter of my head. For thou, O Lord, art a shield for me, my glory and the lifter of my head. I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people who have set themselves against me round about. I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people who have set themselves against me round about. For thou, O Lord, art a shield for me, my glory and the lifter of my head. For thou, O Lord, art a shield for me, my glory and the lifter of my head. But thou, O Lord, art a shield for me, my glory and the lifter of my head. For thou, O Lord, art a shield for me, my glory and the lifter of my head. I'll dismiss you with a blessing. Evarech Adonai yarishmarecha. Yaher Adonai panav elecha vikunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'asem lecha shalom. The Lord bless you. The Lord keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance on you and give you rest, peace, shalom. Hag Sameach, everyone. Hag Shavuot Sameach. You may be seated. We will have oneg presently of this, I am sure. Thank you all for coming.